Dear students, welcome to my channel, Learn to Live. In this video series, we will be learning the 8th Standard Science, chapter by chapter, based on NCERT or CBSE syllabus. In the previous video, we learned Chapter 1, Crop Production and Management. For those who missed that chapter, or wanted to do a revision, please go and watch it. The link is given in the description. So without any delay, let's get started to today's chapter. Today, we will be learning Chapter 2, Microorganisms, Friend and Foe. This is a very interesting chapter, as it describes us about the tiny organisms around us, which are invisible to our eyes. They are microorganisms. In this chapter, we will be learning the following topics. What are microorganisms? Where do microorganisms live? Microorganisms and us. Friendly microorganisms and uses. Harmful microorganisms and diseases. Food preservation. Nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen cycle. And finally, we will discuss some question and answers as a part of quick revision. So let us learn what are microorganisms. The living organisms around us, which we cannot see by our naked eye, are called microorganisms or microbes. They are so small that they cannot be seen with the naked eye. However, some of these can be seen with a magnifying glass, like fungus growing on the bread. But some others require a microscope to be seen. Some microorganisms even live inside our body. Microorganisms are classified into 4 major groups. They are bacteria, which causes diseases like typhoid and tuberculosis. Fungi. Protozoa, which causes diseases like dysentery and malaria. Algae. Other than these, we should learn about viruses too. They are also microscopic like bacteria, but reproduce only inside the cells of host organism. They cannot survive alone. The host organism can be a plant, animal, or bacterium. They cause several diseases like cold, flu and most coughs. Serious diseases like polio and chickenpox are also caused by viruses. Let us see how these microorganisms look. Bacteria. They are seen in almost every part of world. Algae, which can be seen mostly in stagnant water. Amoeba. It mostly likes to live in warm water. Fungus. They grow mostly in moist areas, where some grows in dried grains too. Virus, which contains only nucleic acid and a protein coat. Let us understand where these microorganisms live. We know microorganisms can be single-celled like bacteria, some protozoa and algae, or multicellular like fungi or most algae. Microorganisms can survive in all types of environments, including ice-cold to hot springs and marshy to desert lands. It is clear that some microorganisms are found inside animals including humans. Also, some microorganisms exist freely, and some others grow on other organisms, like amoeba, which lives alone. Fungi and bacteria, which lives in colonies. Microorganisms and us. In this section we will learn about the microorganisms dealing with us. There are a lot of microorganisms around us, which plays vital roles in our daily lives. Among them some are beneficial for us, and some are harmful. Let us see what are the benefits of microorganisms. It is used in increasing soil fertility. It is used in the making of curd and bread. It is used in the commercial production of alcohol by fermentation. It is used in making medicines and vaccines. It is used in cleaning the environment. Now let us see what are the harmful things from microorganisms. They cause diseases in humans. They cause diseases in animals. They cause diseases in plants. They cause food poisoning by damaging unpreserved food items. We will discuss each of these briefly in the next sections. Now let us see the benefits of microorganisms one by one. increasing soil fertility. Some of the microorganisms like bacteria and blue-green algae can fix atmospheric nitrogen to enrich the soil. By this nitrogen fixing, the fertility of soil increases. These microbes are biological nitrogen fixers. Making of curd and bread. Among the several bacteria from milk, Lactobacillus bacteria promotes the formation of curd from milk. These Lactobacillus bacteria multiply in milk, converting it to curd. Bacteria is involved in the same way in the making of cheese, pickles, and many other food items. Likewise, yeast is used in the baking industry for making cakes, breads, and pastries. Yeast reproduces rapidly, and during its respiration it produces carbon dioxide. These carbon dioxide forms bubbles of gases and increases the volume of the product. Commercial uses. For the large-scale production of alcohol, wine, and vinegar, microorganisms are used. Yeast is grown on natural sugars present in wheat, rice, barley and crushed fruit juices for the commercial production of alcohol and wine. The yeast converts the sugar into alcohol. This procedure is called fermentation. Medical uses. The medicines which are made from microorganisms that are used to kill the disease-causing microorganisms are called antibiotics. Many such antibiotics are made from bacteria and fungi, such as tetracycline, erythromycin and streptomycin. Antibiotics are made by growing specific microorganisms and are used to cure several diseases. It is also mixed in the feeds of poultry and livestock to prevent microbial infection in animals. Antibiotics are also used to prevent many plant diseases. It is important to take the antibiotics only with the advice from a qualified doctor, and the prescribed course must be completed as suggested by the doctor. Because, if you take antibiotics in wrong doses or unnecessarily, it will become less effective when you need in the future, or it can kill the beneficial bacteria inside your body. Also note that antibiotics will not work against flu and cold, as these diseases are from viruses. Microorganisms are used in the production of vaccines. Our body contains antibodies. These antibodies are produced by our body when disease-causing microorganisms enter inside our body. Also, our body remembers how to fight again, if needed in the future. So these antibodies remain in our body and protect us from the disease-causing microorganism. Vaccines are also like these antibodies. But vaccines are made from microorganisms and not by our body. It is given to our body to prevent some diseases, like smallpox, cholera, hepatitis, and tuberculosis, as these diseases may not be prevented with human antibodies. Large-scale production of vaccine is done with the use of microorganisms for the protection of humans and animals from several diseases. Microorganisms are used in the cleaning of the environment. The dead plant and animal wastes are decomposed by microorganisms and convert them into simple substances. By this decomposition, harmful and smelly substances are degraded and thus cleans the environment. The simple substances from the decomposed matter are used by plants as nutrients. Thus we can say that microorganisms plays a vital role in the environment. Let us learn about harmful microorganisms. There are some microorganisms that cause diseases in humans, animals, and plants. Those disease-causing microorganisms are called pathogens. Disease-causing in humans. The pathogens enters our body through the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. The pathogens also get transmitted by direct contact with an infected person, or carried by an animal like mosquito. Those diseases which can be transmitted from an infected person through air, water, food or physical contact are called communicable diseases. Some insects and animals also act as carriers of disease-causing microorganisms. Houseflies sits on garbage and animal excreta and pathogens stick to their bodies. When these flies sits on uncovered food, they may transfer the pathogens to the food. Those who eat this contaminated food might get sick. So always keep the food covered and avoid consuming uncovered food items. Female Anopheles mosquito carries parasite of malaria. This mosquito acts as the carrier of the dengue virus. Mosquitoes breed in water. So to avoid the breeding of mosquitoes, we should not let water collect anywhere. By keeping the area dry and clean, we can prevent the mosquito breeding. Now let us learn about some common diseases. Please see the below table to understand the disease causing microorganism, mode of transmission, and preventive measures. Pause this video and read the table completely. Disease causing in animals. Microorganisms cause diseases in animals too. Some of the common diseases in animals are anthrax, foot and mouth disease. Disease causing in plants. Some microorganisms causes diseases in plants like potato, rice, wheat, orange and others. These diseases will reduce the yield of crops. Certain chemicals are used for controlling the diseases. Usage of these chemicals kills the disease-causing microorganisms. Some common diseases in plants are given below. Let us learn what is food poisoning. Consumption of food spoiled by microorganisms causes food poisoning. The microorganisms which grow on our food sometimes produce toxic substances, making the food poisonous. The poisonous food causes serious illness, and in worst cases death also. Thus, it is very important to preserve the food from being spoiled. Food preservation. Now we know that the food must be preserved, or else the food will be spoiled, and it emits bad smell, and tastes bad. Also, its consumption causes illness and sometimes death. Let us now learn about some common methods of food preservation with microorganisms. The most common food preservation methods are: preservation using chemical method, preservation using common salt, preservation using sugar, preservation using oil and vinegar, preservation by heat and cold treatments, preservation by storage and packing. We will learn about these methods briefly in the coming section. Preservation by chemical method. Generally, salts and edible oils are used to prevent the growth of microorganisms. These are called preservatives. Salt or acid preservatives are used to prevent the growth of microbes. These are used in the preservation of pickles, jams, and squashes to prevent their spoilage. Preservation using common salt. To prevent the growth of microbes, meat and fish are covered with dry salt. This method is used for ages. Salts are also used to preserve some crops like mangoes, tamarind, etc. Preservation using sugar. Sugar has the capacity to absorb moisture content, thus preventing the growth of bacteria. Jellies, squashes, and jams are preserved with sugar. Preservation using oil and vinegar. Bacteria cannot survive with the usage of oil and vinegar as preservatives. Fruits, vegetables, fish, and meat are often preserved using this. Preservation by heat and cold treatment. We know boiling kills many microorganisms. Also, keeping the food in lower temperatures prevents the growth of microbes. The process by which milk is heated to 70 degrees Celsius for 15 to 30 seconds, and then suddenly chilled and stored to prevent the growth of microbes is called pasteurization. This pasteurized milk is free from harmful microbes. Hence, we can consume it without boiling. Preservation using storage and packing. To prevent the microorganisms, vegetables and dry fruits are packed in sealed airtight packets and then sold. This way we can preserve this kind of food items. Nitrogen fixation. There are some bacteria that fixes atmospheric nitrogen to the nodules of leguminous plants. These bacteria lives in the root nodules of leguminous plants. In this way, both the bacteria and the plant coexist and support each other for the growth. This type of relationships are called symbiotic relationships. Sometimes, the nitrogen gets fixed by the action of lightning. However, the amount of nitrogen in the atmosphere remains constant always. Nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is very essential for all living organisms as it is present in proteins, chlorophylls, vitamins, and nucleic acid. But these plants and animals cannot absorb nitrogen directly from atmosphere. Some bacteria, like rhizobium and blue-green algae present in the soil, fixes the nitrogen and convert them into usable nitrogen compounds. These usable nitrogen compounds are absorbed from the soil by the plants through roots. The plant uses the absorbed nitrogen for the synthesis of plant proteins and other compounds. Animals that feed on these plants get these proteins and nitrogen compounds. After the death of these plants and animals, the fungi and bacteria present in the soil decompose it and turns the wastes to nitrogenous compounds for the plants to absorb again. During this process, some bacteria convert the plant and animal wastes to nitrogen gases, and it escapes to the atmosphere. Thus the nitrogen percentage in the atmosphere remains constant more or less. Now let us do some revision with some question and answer. Section 1. Fill in the blanks. For each question in the fill in the blanks, try to answer within 5 seconds. If you need more time, pause the video. Section 2. Find the correct answer. For each question in this section, try to answer within 5 seconds. If you need more time, pause the video. Section 3. Match the organisms in column A with their action in column B. Pause the video and try to answer on your own. Can microorganisms be seen with the naked eye? If not, how can they be seen? What are the major groups of microorganisms? Name the microorganisms which can fix atmospheric nitrogen in the soil. Write 10 lines on the usefulness of microorganisms in our lives. Write a short paragraph on the harms caused by microorganisms. What are antibiotics? What precautions must be taken while taking antibiotics?